And we're back. It's time for another edition of Your Exit Squad. How are you doing today, Mike?
Excellent, sir. Excellent. I am looking forward to our guest today.
Well, I am too. And what is going to be really great about this story is that we have the pleasure of talking with someone who not only is thinking long term about the exit of their business, but they've actually been a part of this from the other side of the table. They purchased this business, and it's one of the things that I've often um, realized when talking with business owners. If they've never bought a business before, they sometimes have a hard time understanding what the mindset of the buyer might be. But today's guest is in a unique position where he's been on that side of the table.
That's right. A huge value in terms of the insight of what that transaction might look like, if nothing else, to understand what might motivate a buyer. Right. That's having that perspective is so valuable.
Yeah. And I'll remind everyone who's watching that if you haven't already, it would be really great. If you want to subscribe to the show, make sure you never miss an episode. Head over to yourexitsquad.com. That'll bring you to a place where you can subscribe to the YouTube channel. And you can also find us on all the popular audio podcast services as well, if you prefer just to listen. And if you're a business owner and you're thinking at some point you want to exit and you'd like to share your story, get some help from some of our squad members and other people, then you can always head over to yourexitsquadguests.com, which is a place where you can actually fill in a brief form, tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll reach back out to you and have a conversation to see if you might want to join us here on the show.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sign up today.
Sign up today. And with that, we're going to introduce our today's guest. Everyone, here's Tony. How are you today?
Hi, guys. I'm doing great. How are you?
We're
Excellent.
doing really well.
Excellent, sir. Yes. And David, as you mentioned, our guest today is Tony. He's the owner of Dents and Stones Automotive. Tony purchased his business not all that long ago, but he's already started wondering a little bit about what the ultimate path to exit might look like for him. So, Tony, we're excited to talk to you a little bit today. But start us at the beginning. Give us a sense for your background. How did you end up owning a business?
Well, first and foremost, I'm an immigrant from the UK. I moved to Canada in 2007 with my two children, and I've always been in the auto industry. So it's something that's always attracted me back to it. I've left it once or twice and then come back to it. So it's just one of them things that I feel, feel as though I have some value in that industry and some prior knowledge that, I could bring to the business. So I saw this business for sale on just one of the websites. I keep strolling through, and it actually interested me. I didn't want to. I was like, how could you say? I worked in dealerships in the UK quite a lot. And my position was basically to set up the rental departments for the likes of Ford Motor Company or BMW, and staff them outlets and train everybody. And so I wasn't actually in the sales, so to speak, retail sales. But I did a lot of, in addition to that, also business to business sales for fleet customers. So I spent many years doing that and reached a pretty good level of success, actually. So I was number one sales, for BMW for a year or two, which was great, because I actually enjoyed the job. So it was just basically calling companies and trying to get them to put our product into the business as opposed to other manufacturers' vehicles.
Sure. So would you call yourself a car guy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much, I'm not into the, HP, how fast it goes. I just like being around cars. I think every guy has that from an early age. I think every boy, has some type of, affection for vehicles. I don't know why, but I'm no different. So, well, yeah, I do like being around cars, and I wanted to get back into that industry because I'd come out of it for a little while. And, I was yearning for something that I could add a bit more of my knowledge to see whether my experience would work in this country, in Canada, as it did in the UK. So, but I didn't want to go and work for an employer. To be fair, I didn't want to work work in a dealership and, do all them long hours and a lot of traveling because, I had my own family here now in Canada, and, I had another business as well, which, it meant I was, it needed me like 2 or 3 evenings, even more per week. So,
So tell us what Dents and Stones does and how that relates to your background and how you thought you were going to be able to capitalize on your experience in this particular business.
yeah, I mean, the business has basically 4 facets of the business. So we do vehicle detailing, which accounts for about 30% of our business. And it's a mixture of used car dealers and the public. So that's one aspect of the business. The second aspect is windshields. So we do windshield repairs and windshield replacements. That's probably around about 18% of our business at the minute. And then the other 2 sectors are the rust protection and undercoating, which is a big part of the business. And the last one is a body shop. Now, in terms of the body shop, it's not a massive body shop. We don't do accident damage. We just do small, as the name suggests, dents and stones. So we'll do the dents and, and scratches and, light repairs, bumpers, and, so it's not an area of the auto industry that I know too much about. So to me, it was a challenge as well. But I knew I didn't want to go into selling vehicles in dealerships. I wanted something for myself. And I thought, wow, this is a challenge as well. So I know a little bit about each area of the business, but I don't know a great deal. So it will be a learning curve for me. So I thought with some of the background I have in the industry, that maybe that would help, specifically the sales side of things, because I have no issues going out trying to get business. I feel very confident in my ability to do that, and I thought I could add value there.
You've got both other businesses as clients as well as the general public. Through overall your whole business, how much of it is done with other companies as far as revenue?
Okay, as far as revenue is concerned, I actually did these figures just the other day. We're about 70% corporate businesses or business-to-business sales, and the rest, the other 30% would be the general public.
Okay.
So it's a good mix, and that's a mix I actually used to try and achieve when I was basically setting up rental departments for dealerships.
And Tony, just so I understand, when you talk 70% of B2B, you're doing fleet management and care and concern for corporate vehicles. Is that what I understand?
It's mostly car dealerships and used car dealerships.
Got it.
And then they'll use us for their undercoating. They'll use us for the detailing or any paintwork that needs doing, or windshields, blah blah blah.
Got it.
So if someone trades in a car to buy a new one, it's got a little bit of rust along the edge of the fender, they'll send that to you.
Yeah, they'll send it for us, and they'll send it for the detailing as well. So they're covering 2 aspects of our what we offer at work. So that's that's how it seems to be working. And the other dealerships we deal with are main dealers, and they send vehicles to us for undercoating, not so much body work, because they usually have their own body shops, and they usually have their own detailing outfits as well. So that's how the business model is made up at the minute. Yeah.
Excellent. And how long have you owned the business, Tony?
I purchased it in January 2021. So in about 4 or 5 months, it will be 2 years.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
What's been the biggest surprise of ownership for you since day one?
We've had lots of surprises, because I think in terms of purchasing an established business, and this was an established business, I think it'd been there 18 or 19 years. So it had some great clientele, and the previous owners had done a fantastic job building that reputation. So we just followed on with that. But there are other issues that have come up, which we're still in the COVID sort of era, and we were only months into it when I purchased the business.
Sure.
So we've had some challenges in terms of, parts being supplied for some of the body work, and we've got to wait for some of the parts coming in for months now instead of a couple of days or a week or two. So that's been sort of a learning curve, but I think everybody's had some sort of experience of that through the pandemic. So and hopefully that'll all peter out at some point. I don't know when, but I'm positive it will do. And other challenges or other not surprises, but things I've had to deal with that I didn't expect would be when you purchase a business. And I wasn't aware of this, so it's maybe my naivety here. But when you purchase a business, you purchase the good and the bad. And I think it'd be a bit narrow-minded to think that there's not going to be some things that you want to change. And I think there's been one or two things I've had to change there. I've had to change some of the people that were there working. Because they had to fit around what I wanted in terms of everybody's different. So I run a business a little bit different to the next person maybe. So some of them just didn't fit in with me. And we've had to, find the right people to take the business forward. So that's been a challenge because it's a personal thing as well that you don't want to get involved with, but it's something you should consider. Looking at any business, the employees and how long they've been there, and maybe I should have asked more questions. I don't know. But,
Sure.
yeah.
Did you come into the purchase, Tony, with a plan in mind in terms of I'm going to do this for 5 years or 15 years, or what was the outlook when you started?
I think from day one, I said I'm going to spend every single day for the first 12 months to 2 years working there without time off. And it was a big ask. So I'm not 21. I don't have the energy a 21-year-old would have, but I did it. And the main reason I did that was because I wanted to find out every aspect of the business. And you can't.
I love that. I just love that. The wisdom of that is just something we should magnify out to folks who are listening. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just love that.
Yeah, I think it's very important that it's like anything. We're all salespeople. Every single person who's born is a salesperson. Although they don't realize it, but they are always selling themselves, whether it's crying to get fed as a child or whatever it may be. We're all salespeople. And I think that side of it in me was, I've got to be confident in what I sell. I've got to believe in it. I've got to know it. And, it has been a struggle because I didn't know anything about that side of the business, really. Just very limited knowledge. So I've had to get my hands dirty and get stuck in. And, and it's great. You get to meet the customers and, I'm not just like an owner of a business that wants to just own it and sit back. I'm not an investor, so to speak. I like to get involved with it and meet the customers because I believe that's how you can build the business. But getting back to your question, Mike, I think after that sort of, that's what I wanted to do. I think my initial thoughts were, maybe I'd like to franchise this if we got, a model that was perfect. Well, not perfect, but near perfect, that we could duplicate. So I started logging everything down, what procedures we take in the morning, what you're going to turn the alarm off and put the computer on and put the fans on and open. I logged everything so that, if something ever happened to me, somebody could pick up that file and say, okay, well, this is what we do. But for me to do all that and to get to know the processes and the procedures, I had to physically get involved and do them all and find some areas that probably, didn't work, but then I had to change them. So that was my initial thing, looking at franchising or even just opening up other branches in other towns once we've got a successful business model. So that was it. I never thought about exiting the business or anything just then.
Sure.
But I think it's with my age. I'm 56 years of age now. I am looking at, down the road. How do we build a business that's attractive to other purchasers and that does it does what it says on the can. We have a good product. So I don't know if that answers your questions, but
Well, as I mentioned during the introduction, what I think is so great about Tony's telling his story is that you're really explaining, what you were looking for, which was a business that you could contribute to, that you were going to be able to run and manage and get your arms around and get your head around. And you got in there and you made the commitment to work there every day to learn everything there was about it. And you represent actually the most common kind of business buyer. And it's the one that the online media kind of gives the least amount of attention to. Is you are the owner operator who's going to buy the business and become the day-to-day manager. And let's talk a little bit about your relationship with the seller, because before the transaction was finished, you were talking with the seller, they were telling you about the business, and then after the deal was done, presumably there was a training and transition period. And can you talk a little bit about that? And now it's been over 18 months. Do you still talk with the former owner from time to time?
Yeah, I mean, we've built quite a good relationship between us because, like I said, I did have another business. I had a gym teaching martial arts, which I'm very passionate about. Even though I don't own the gym now, I sold it to one of my younger instructors to enable me to raise some capital to buy this one. But I'm very passionate about that business, and the previous owner of Dents and Stones is very passionate about that business. So it was a great, how can you say, it was a great partnership. He stayed with me, him and his wife, they stayed with me for a month, and they didn't know me. I never knew them prior to purchasing the business, but they helped me out immensely. And I wanted to change some things, the decor of the business and the office, and I started to change a few things. Just to give you a little bit of an example, and I realized that the previous owner said, yeah, that's okay, but I could see in his face it wasn't. He didn't, it was a big shock to him, just changing the colors of the walls. And so I actually he said he'd stay with me for a month. And I soon realised that, I shouldn't be making any changes because this is his baby. And once he's out of the business, then I'll start to do that. So just as a respect for him and his wife, because, they were fantastic with me. And he's always on hand. He's been in the business quite a lot, trying helping out and seeing if we're okay. So he's always at the end of the phone if I need him. And at one point, which was last September, our rust check season, if you like, is September to towards the end of the year, mid-December, and it does get absolutely crazy. That we're doing hundreds of them, and he popped in the office and saw me at one point, and I was flapping. I was like, "Oh, I've got to do this, I've got to do that," and I was filling out the books, and holy, you got to get these done today. And he said, "You look like you need some help." I says, "I do." He says, "Right, I'll be in the morning." I said, "Really?" He says, "Yeah, I'll stay with you throughout the rust check season just so you know what to expect." And
wow,
obviously,
wonderful.
it was a fantastic, thing that he did. And I think it was his way of still teaching me, along through the busy periods with the rust check season, because I wasn't aware of it. And prior to me doing it, him and his wife were doing it while I was on my own trying to do everything. And so no, he held his hand out, and even to this day he still does that. So we have a great relationship. Yeah,
That's wonderful.
yeah.
And how has now you've had it for more than one full accounting cycle, you've had it for over 1 year.
Yeah.
How has the performance of the business changed, if at all, between you and the prior owner?
Well, that's an interesting question there, because that's one of the concerns when you buy a business and establish one is everything going to be as they've as they've told you, the previous owner, because you don't know them. But no, we printed off all these accounts and everything for each individual month for the last couple of years, last two fiscal years. And he'd come in at the end of the month, even though he was just passing. He'd just say, "I'll come in at the end of the month and we can go through the figures if you like." I said, "Yes, that'd be great." And we did, and we compared everything. And there'd be areas there where he said, "Tony, we probably spent a little bit too much this month on blah blah blah. See if you can get that down. So he's been great with that. But in terms of your question, David, the figures have stayed pretty true to what he said. We haven't. I mean, I thought I was, the world's greatest salesman, but it's not about sales really when you buy a business, because the sales are already there. But it's trying to increase them sales. But again, we had other things to do first. But we've managed to maintain the same amount of profit roughly as the previous owner, which is a great thing. He was true to his figures. And we have had some instances in the auto industry where we've had problems with supply of vehicles. All the dealerships have, so that affected us. I'm going to have to ask you, can I just go to another room, because I've just saw my granddaughter and my son turn up.
Yeah, sure.
I wasn't expecting that, but I'm going to continue in another room if that's okay.
No, that's great, Tony.
Sorry about this.
No worries at all.
No worries.
I'll just run upstairs before. Okay, I'm going upstairs. She's being really good. She's saying shh. Yeah. Okay. So no, it's we've been very, very lucky to maintain, the same amount of sales and profit as the previous owner. Sorry, I don't know what happened there.
Nope, we got you.
We got you back.
Yeah. But
Okay.
like I said, the business has, the auto industry's seen some changes. So
and Tony, as you've learned over the last year, what is your outlook on growth? What is your outlook on the potential for the business? Do you still have that vision of franchising? Do you still see a big upside, or has that perspective changed?
It has changed a little bit, Mike, and I think it's a good thing, because it means I'm growing and in that business and looking at the whole industry as a whole, because things do change. We are in a different era, if you like, when it comes to the auto industry. In every industry, it's we've got the electric vehicles coming on, and so there's some great areas that I can move into in terms of growing the business. But I'm not particularly interested in the franchising now, which is, it's funny, because originally that's how it started. I thought franchising is the way, but I mean, maybe I was listening to outside sources. I don't know. Because there are a lot of successful franchises out there. But now I'm looking more towards, once I've got the model that I'm happy with, I would like to maybe open up another one in another town, and get the right staff in there and, managed as opposed to franchised. I think that's the way I'm looking at now. Yeah.
I think, though, if you ever did want to open the door to that franchising route, having another location that you are not present in all the time is the actual litmus test of whether or not it really is a franchisable model, is being able to get employees to execute on all the different roles in the business.
Yeah. Well, I think we're getting there. I mean, it's not a massive big company. I think we've got I've only got 4 people employed and myself. But I think we've got the right 4 people on board, and I think that's a great thing. I just want to, but it's took 18 months to get there, because I've only got 1 member of the original staff, and I think he's getting up there. Maybe in the next 5 years he'll be looking to retire as well. So I have to sort of like make provisions for that, and accept that's going to have to happen in the next 4 or 5 years. So.
At this point right now, you mentioned that you're 56 years old, and I've got to tell you, in my experience, a lot of people who buy businesses are in that middle-age kind of category, just where you are, right? They're very much like you're very typical of a common business buyer, because it takes most people until their late 30s, early 40s to accumulate some capital and some understanding and management skill and all that type of thing, just as the same as you through your journey. When do you foresee that you want to be retired and not working? Let's work at this from the other end. Have you got a certain age benchmark that you're thinking that you want to be exiting and retired from business altogether?
I don't. I think as a business owner, and I have had other businesses, and I come from a family of entrepreneurs, if you want to call them that, who have their own business. I don't ever want to be without a business. I'd like to have somebody, I mean, I've even thought about the idea of getting somebody in to manage the business, whereas I still own it and I'll still be there if they need me, but I don't want to be involved with the day-to-day running of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that's the key behind maybe not fixing this model, but getting the model to where I'm happy that I could leave the business and it's still run and then move on to the next one. So, I mean, I think you can do that well past your retirement age. I don't think I'm not going to be putting 50, 60 hours a week in. I'm not looking forward to doing that in my 60s and further than that. But I'd still like to be, building businesses. I don't think that's, I think that's in your head, and it's part and parcel of who you are. I just like to see things working, and I can stand back at the end of the day and say, you know what, we did great. We got this extra account customer on today, and it's all me. I actually went out there and I got it, and it was something from nothing. So that's a big achievement.
So it's not for you, Tony, about going from owner to former owner. This is a question of freedom, right? This is a question of are you going to be locked down in the business 60 hours a week, or can you create a model and populate it in a way that allows you to either go and start that second business or actually be downstairs with the grandkids right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm looking at. It's I'm not looking for a career. I'm looking for something that, I mean, they call it turnkey operation over here. I've never heard that before in England, but it's, is that what they call it, Dave? Where the business runs itself or something, or you have managers involved?
Turnkey usually just means that you don't have to go and add anything additional. Everything's ready to go.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Maybe I misunderstood that one, but yeah, I'd like to have a manager in the business and still own the business, and then maybe my job would be to find the next one, and and I could perhaps do that as long as I can talk and I can still get I've got all my faculties about me. I think I can go doing, and I wouldn't mind doing that into my retirement years as well. It's but at some point, if I build a big enough business with, a few outlets, then maybe, somebody will come along and offer me the right money. And if they did, I'd still do something. I'm not ready for sitting down doing it, nothing, or gardening at home or anything. I enjoy building businesses and the challenges they bring, because it helps me grow as a person as well. So, I enjoy that, although it's uncomfortable sometimes, but that's why business is not for everybody. It's some people just want to work for an employer, and that's fine, but I like to make my own sort of future, if you like. So
what is your next goal then in Dents and Stones? Is it to replace yourself with a manager who's going to do the things you're doing every day?
By the time I'm 60, which is 4 years time, this is getting back to your question. Yes, I'd like to replace myself in the business in that particular branch, and maybe I'll look at another one then. But I think I could say, being naive, that from purchasing the business to expanding to another outlet, at the beginning I thought it'll take me 2 years, but I was being naive, to be fair with you. There's lots more to consider than that. So I've given myself till I'm age 60. So yeah.
And Tony, do you have a sense for how much growth needs to take place from where you are now to the infrastructure that would allow you to do that? I mean, do you have to double in size? Is it a 50% growth? Is it 10x? Any idea what kind of growth you're talking about?
Well, I think I can only grow as it's like a goldfish will only grow as big as its tank. You put it in a bigger tank, it'll grow bigger. And I'm in the same position. We're at maximum usage of the space we've got at the minute, whereas I cannot really add any of the additional services I'd like to. So, in another 3 years' time, I'll be out of that lease because I signed up for a 5-year lease. and then I'd like to move on to a bigger premises, whereas I can offer a few more services. Because there is the demand there. I have the demand, and I've got a great customer base. We could offer more because they're spending it elsewhere. So I think, but where I am at the minute, Mike, I can't really expand that. So there are some fantastic opportunities to build, add-on services in the future. Yeah. So
Okay, so adding services to the existing primary location is one aspect of growth. You said just a few moments ago that you were thinking you could add another location or a new outlet within 2 years, and now you kind of realize it's going to be more like 5. Can you share a little bit about how your perspective changed? What things did you realize were going to take longer? Did it have to do with, assembling the money required to grow, or did it have to do with your management team or lack of it right now? Like what changed your perspective from thinking it would be a 2-year project to a 5-year project?
I think one of the biggest aspects is, and I think this is, it's not something any of us, in this podcast or anybody listening to has gone through before, and that's the pandemic's created some issues for every employer in, mostly in finding the right sort of people. I seem to had a lot of problems with that, trying to find the right people, and I don't know what it is, but we weren't getting any responses from our advertisements for looking. I'm looking for employees. So I think, but every business has had some sort of, recently every business, has had a problem trying to find the right staff, or any staff, to be fair. So that sort of like held me back in my tracks, thinking, hold on a minute, this is not as easy as I thought it was going to be. Because prior to the pandemic, there was people out there that you could get staff, you could get employees, but it seems to be there's a shortage of them at the minute, and it's not just in Canada or in my area of Canada, it's all over the world. I'm hearing the same stories from back home of my brothers in England. So
sure. Are you fully staffed now?
We're fully staffed now, yeah.
Okay.
But that only just happened just this week, really. So
Sure.
we're training somebody else up who I think is going to be a great addition.
So you're almost at full capacity in your current space, which means the revenue and profit upside in this current location is fairly limited.
It is limited, yes. It's good. The profit margins are good. The business is doing, it's doing, as the previous owner said, it's not doing any more, but it's certainly not doing any less.
Sure.
And we've had challenges, but I think, that there's more. I couldn't add more staff in the current position, our current location, to do more work. Because I don't have the space, but there are other services and things I'd like to offer, whereas I'd need additional people, but I'd need additional space. So that's sort of slowed me down a little bit. But it's great knowing that, that's the future holds that I can do that, but not in that particular location. And that's why I never purchased the location from the beginning. I had the option to purchase it, and I said no, because it looked a little bit tight as it was. And I'm thinking, well, I'm not here to just, caretake the business and just let it run its course. No, I want to grow this thing. So, from the beginning, I had them ideas of growing it and offering more services. So I'd need more space. So I think, getting back to David's question, that was a realization that, this is not going to happen as quick as I thought. The staffing issues that the world is experiencing, not just me, and the fact that it is a changing world. Go back 2 years ago, there was you'd never heard of electric vehicles, really, but that seems to be a big thing that we have to encompass, and going digital with everything we've got. So there's been a lot of changes over the last 18 months with every business, and that sort of slowed me down a little bit, and thought, this could be a longer project than I thought. but I'm still, still enthusiastic about it and excited about it. I know there's lots I can add to the business. So, yeah.
Have you done any changes in the way you offer services to the various customers? Any other than maybe like a price increase or anything like that? Have you tried to innovate or change things in any major way?
Well, yeah, we've looked at obviously I had to find out what part of the business, because there's four aspects of it, and I had to find out which one was the most profitable, and how I could expand on that. And it seems to be the smaller services that we offer are the most profitable. So the quick car wash is, something which previously wasn't advertised. Well, we've got the little punch cards now that people, buy 4 of them and they get the 5th one free. So that seems to be going pretty well. So I've added a few things like that. And I think it was just to highlight to our current, clientele that we do other things. So we highlighted that. Then other things along the way, just the small bits like the headlamp restoration and things like that. That's where we're not making massive amounts of profit, but the profit margin on that is bigger than some of the jobs that take us all day. So we're trying to highlight them through social media and some leaflet drops we've done, and basically, and I don't want this to sound the wrong way, but like educating our current customers to what we do, because that was the biggest thing I found with the business is people didn't know what we did. What is it you do? Do you just do detailing? I'm thinking no, because the detail is the least profitable part of the business, but it takes a long time. But it brings in other revenue streams like scratches, or they may need a new windshield. So we had to try and sort of push them other areas forward, and we did in the form of I got a little video made, a cartoon video, just to outline the 4 areas that we do, just to try and let customers know that that's what we do. And we promoted that on social media and Google and the AdWords and everything. So it was like I don't know, I think it was a minute long video or something, but it gave a different look on the business, more friendly. We changed the logo and just to let people know that we do other things. So that's been one of the things that I thought we could promote. So
Tony, is that an effort to move from one service to a more profitable service? I mean, what I'm picking up on the vibe of is that capacity issue is going to be very restrictive if it isn't already, right? I mean, that's a huge challenge, especially if the goal is growth in a way that allows you some independence through active management by someone else.
Yeah, I think it was my way of trying to direct customers to a certain service that we offer that's quick and easy and more profitable. I think that's what I was trying to do, really.
Sure. No, and it makes sense.
It's because the detailing side of things is what people, the local clientele knew we did, but we earn more money on other aspects as well, and I'm trying to highlight them in that little video. Yep. First, I had to find out who our customers were, the demographics, and the previous logo, the previous ethos of the business was aimed at. I don't want this to sound, contradictory or against my predecessor, but it was aimed at a younger market. With the fast cars and the fast logo, with the flames flying away off the logo. I mean that's I thought this was fine. It looked great and it served its purpose in the 80s. But looking at it when I took over the business, I'd done a quick calculation of everyone who came in through the doors. What age and where they worked and what they did for a living. And I would say that that the majority of our business demographics is over 50s, and the retired people. I don't think they're that interested in, you know, fast cars with flames coming out the back of them. So we try to change the logo, and that's what that video was about. Change the logo to a more friendly, you know, approachable logo to try and get them customers and try and find out what they want. They're the most, you know, out of the different genders or different groups who would perhaps have the surplus cash to look after the vehicles. You know, the younger, you know, for whatever reasons, but the younger people, you know, in my industry, they didn't, you know, they don't have that surplus cash because it's so tough out there now, you know. So
This is definitely a sort of a luxury service, right? I mean,
yeah,
people always have the option of simply cleaning the car themselves.
yes,
And so
yeah.
to choose to pay someone else to do it, you have to have disposable income to make that choice.
That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's what I was trying to do. I had to first find out who my customers were, and then try and, you know, aim the marketing at them. But then I had to find out, well, you know, we do have social media, and it's, you know, we put advertisements out there, you know, twice a week. It's always ongoing. But I know that's not where my business customers are going to pick up our name from, because, you know, they're maybe over 50s, over 60s, and not as you know, they're not online as much. So we have to try and find areas, and, you know, where do they hang out, or, you know, how we can contact them. So, you know, and that's a work in progress. It really is, because it's just, you know, I don't think there's any system out there that's going to tell me exactly this is where they are and just, you know, go there and put your adverts here. I think you've just got to try, you know, and with your best efforts, and find out where your customers are coming from, really. So
And Tony, do you have a sense if these efforts that you've described work? Does the current model provide enough upside, either through, you know, filling out capacity or profitability, to allow you to achieve your goal of hiring management and stepping aside? Can you do that in your current footprint?
if you're asking me if I could do that today, Mike, then the answer would be no.
Okay.
You know, because I still need an income from the business.
Of course.
You know, so but I'm under the impression that, you know, once we have, you know, another branch, if you like, another outlet, and maybe we've moved from this current location to a bigger one where we can offer more services, then I think, you know, that could be a, you know, a very good possibility, and that's what I'm aiming for, so
Sure.
that I, you know, that I'm not encumbrant on one branch really for my salary. You know, if it was spread between the two of them, you know, then that would be half rich, so it'd be more manageable and make more sense, I think. Yeah. Because right now I couldn't just walk away, you know, and put a manager in, because they're going to expect good money, and I couldn't pay them that right off the bat. So
Right.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's that. The challenge you're facing is one I've seen other business owners run into frequently. I mean, you have a tight pair of shoes on, right?
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is, and so we can experiment with different dance moves, but at the end of the day, we still got a tight pair of shoes on, and
Yeah.
so that I think is going to be a significant part of the targeting that you're going to need to do to get to an environment where exit is possible, right? It's not just I mean, all the stuff you're describing is new business or new owner stuff, right? I got to learn the business. How do I attract my customers? Where do they hang out? I mean, it just makes perfect sense what you're doing and how you're doing it. But it's kind of like veering ahead or looking ahead and saying, "Oh, we've got these restrictions built into the model right now."
Yeah.
How imposing is that on you? How much does that impact how you're able to plan for the business? I would guess it's significant.
It is. It's a huge. I'd call it a challenge, but it's not really. It's a challenge. It's a reality. You know. You know. At the end of the day, what keeps me sort of focused and on the straight and narrow is because that business has been there for many years, and it's, you know, it's sustained the current clientele, and they've offered the services that we're still offering. And for me to go forward for the next 5 years with that, we could do, and we still make money, but it doesn't fit in with my goals and what I want to achieve for the business. But
Tony, that's just, I want to pause for a second, because the truth of what you said is so important for owners to recognize, right? What you've just stated is this business has been operating this way for years, for decades, successfully, right? However, that level of success is not providing you the exit path that you desire. Exactly. And that's truth for such a huge percentage of owners. David, you must run into that all the time.
Well, yes, and we can expand on this further as to why your particular scenario in this moment, it could be so much different than that the seller enjoyed, because the seller of this business owned the real estate as well.
Yes, he did. Yeah, he still does.
And he still does. Okay, so he's your landlord. So when he purchased that real estate, probably many, many years ago, he signed up for a mortgage with a certain payment. And then over the course of time, as prices and inflation went up, that payment probably didn't change.
Yeah.
And so inflation actually made that payment lower over time. And he didn't have, this big acquisition financing. So in your position, you're paying a fair market rent, whatever the space goes for today, and you've borrowed money in order to buy the business. So, the same amount of profitability coming out of this business is very different for you than it was for him, because your rent expense is higher and you've got all those debt service payments, both interest and the principal repayment. And so when you say, I can't hire someone to be the manager here because I still need a salary, I would imagine that most of the earnings beyond what you're taking as a salary is going towards this increased rent and the debt service that you took on to buy the business.
Yes.
Right. And so that 5-year time horizon that you're talking about, does that coincide with some of these debts being paid off?
Yes, everything's based on the first 5 years. So after the 5 years are over, I should have paid off. Well, I will have paid off the loans I had to take out, and there was some vendor financing as well. So everything's based on paying that off in the 5 years, plus what I've put in as well. So
and so in my own YouTube channel, I'm sometimes critical of what happens in the U.S. when people take an SBA loan to buy a business. Mike, and you've heard me talk about this quite a bit, and I know a lot of our listeners are in the U.S. In the U.S., the SBA will allow these loans to be amortized over 10 years. And so what ends up happening is people can borrow more and pay more for businesses because they've got a longer amortization. And so they can afford to spread those payments out over a longer period of time. That is not a typical amortization for business acquisition anywhere else in the world. So, in Tony's situation, your loans were over 5 or 6 years, most of them?
Everything was 5 years, yeah.
Everything was 5 years.
Yeah.
So the business had to cash flow and be able to service its debts on a 5-year amortization, which is one of these reasons why when I point out that businesses in the States sell for more than businesses in other countries, this is one of the key reasons why that happens.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's, like I say, everything was done over the 5-year period, and it's... It was interesting to do. The whole deal was so interesting because I didn't know it was possible, and David helped me out a lot here with the the purchase of the business. I didn't know what I was entitled to, or I didn't know anything about vendor financing, and so all that was eye opening. It was it was very, very interesting, and it really helped me out. Well, I wouldn't be here today without it, so. I appreciate your help there.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to see that everything's working out well for you.
Yeah. It is doing. It's the business is doing good, and like you said, going back to Mike's question, it's things have to change in terms of my expectations. Because of the pandemic and what that's brought, in terms of changes for every business, but also in the realization, because sometimes, even me, I've been in business before, but, I still went into this with rose-colored glasses and thinking, no, 2 years, I'll be good. I can open up another one or replace me. And that's not the case. So it's, but I think it's character building as well. because you learn a lot about the business, and that's the key thing. You've got to know everything about the business before you feel confident to go out and expand it. I've not really expanded on the business, because I don't really. I wouldn't say I don't need to just yet. It's just that I don't have the capacity with the current, the current location to do that. But in the future, that's what I'm looking at. To expand on that. And there are great opportunities for me to do that. So I'm looking forward to the future doing that. So
Yeah, I think again that that opportunity to find some innovative or creative ways to step out of those tight shoes, right? I don't have it top of mind, but part of my thought is that you understand our model here, Tony. I'd love to see how we can find someone to be of assistance to you in figuring some of that out. How is growth possible despite the restrictions of the four walls? How do you find a way to add to that top line and bottom line within the restrictions that you have?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and just along them lines, I've worked with quite a lot of the dealerships in the past, back in England, and gone into dealerships that weren't perhaps achieving the best results, profit wise, and I think it's as a business owner, I've found out over the years that sometimes you don't, it costs me more to acquire a new customer than expand on the products and services we offer existing customers. So I believe that we have a great database of customers that they're spending money elsewhere to get services that we don't currently provide. So I see that's a massive area for growth. That's going to hit the bottom line in the future. So sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's right there on your doorstep. The answers are right there, and I think going back to the way a lot of people think about business is, let's do some more marketing, let's do some more advertising, well, you've got a database there of customers who are already happy using your services. So, sorry, Dave.
Well, no. So what I'm wondering is, are you looking maybe for some kind of help in how to understand what those people are spending their money on elsewhere?
Yes, it's hard for me to quantify. I know they are spending, money elsewhere on the vehicle because we don't offer that current service, and that's what I don't know how much to spend, and I couldn't quantify that really, but they are spending it elsewhere because they're coming to us asking, "Do you do this? Do you do that?" And it breaks my heart to say no. It really does, because I know there's an opportunity there, but I don't have the capacity to do it at the minute.
So it almost sounds like that you want to be adding other services, but the question is going to be, which is the one that you should put the greatest priority on, and you, without quantifying how much is already being spent by your existing client base, it's hard to make the decision about which direction you should go once you're able to.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's there's some great areas in that we I've been asked for and we're looking into, and I think we could furnish certain, like ceramic coating. We're behind the times in terms of dealerships or detail shops offering ceramic coatings. We should have been doing it already, but I'm thinking I don't have the capacity to do it. I've got customers who are getting it done and they're asking me where can they go, and I'm thinking, goodness me, it's just money walking out the door. But I think it's how can I say? It's hard for me to say this, but I think looking back, and it's only through talking to you guys, and things are coming to my mind. Maybe initially I should have looked at the growth of the business, and said, what, this place is definitely not big enough. Maybe I should sign up for a 12-month lease or a 2-year lease. I don't know, but it was obvious, then that I wanted to add more services, but I thought maybe we could fit them in, but we definitely can't fit them in the current location. But it's still room for growth in the future, which I'm happy about.
Have you contemplated taking one of those 4 facets and move it to another site?
I actually have. I have, yeah, and it wouldn't be any of the four facets, Dave. It would be an additional facet of the ceramic coating, because we can't do that in our current place because of the body shop. So most of the ceramic coatings have silicone in them, and we can't have
Okay.
silicone in the air when there's a body shop there because it'll go on the paint. So
Interesting.
yeah, it would be a great opportunity for me to look at maybe renting another spot somewhere else. So all I need is another garage or something, and taking somebody else on, or getting one of my current guys to go and do it.
It's a really interesting part of the conversation, because David, my brain was going there as well, but it was going there in this way. Tony, what if you started viewing your current location as your second location? Right? If this is going to, you might find that if this model can be profitable, but you don't want to dump it, but maybe this is your smaller second location, and what we need to do is start visualizing what the prime location looks like, includes, is located, and this becomes a secondary profitable arm of what the business becomes.
That's a fantastic idea, and it's something, I haven't looked at that, but once you said it, I thought that would be an ideal opportunity for me to get the business as it runs. I mean, right now it's just one room, if you like, and in that one room we've got a little section off, with a prefabricated building. Inside of that, that's the body shop, and then next to that we have the hoist where we do all the undercoating and the rust check, which puts molecules into the air, and when you're buffing or polishing a vehicle, it'll land on that. So, but they all need their own individual bays, really, and in a bigger sort of a bigger outlet, we could perhaps make that to order, and it would run more efficiently. Definitely. And then we could add these other services on, like the ceramics, because that should be in a little spot of its own. They shouldn't have any, contaminants in the air when you're doing that. Yeah, because that could ruin the vehicle.
Because viewing it that way now, instead of having to wait 3 years to see the lease run out, now maybe we can start to explore some of those strategies more immediately.
Yeah.
Again, there's still challenges to overcome with the financing and the numbers and all of that kind of stuff, but I don't know, maybe just a flip in perspective on that.
Yeah, no, I think it's good because, like I say, I've not really pushed the boat out in terms of advertising, because there's times when I didn't have enough, staff there because we've had one or two issues, and B, could I fit it in that current location? So I feel sort of like, how can you say, like I'm ready to burst out and
right.
Go and get some more business. I've even got current dealerships offering me more business in terms of the ceramic coating, because they're not happy. I've got 3 dealerships now that will use us, because they're not happy with the current supplier or the current applicator. So, and we're already dealing with them businesses with their undercoating and things. So we've got a history with them, and they're happy with the services. So
Interesting.
really is. It's just, but it's sometimes you get all these ideas, and you get the opportunities that come by you, and I don't have the facility in my brain or the capacity in my brain to take them all on, because I'm day to day running the business as well. So it's you've got that aspect to consider as well. Think, well, I'm running here, I'm running there, and can I take more on? But yeah, I'd have to take more people on to do it. And that creates a challenge in itself because of the size of the building where we operate from, but using that as a second location and then another one as the main one would be fantastic, because then we could, I have no problems getting business. I can get more business. I feel confident because I think the products we offer are great. I really do believe in them, which, I didn't know much about them prior to purchasing the business, but I've had to sample them, apply them myself, and
So it sounds to me like, Tony, you are aware of which services need to be added based on the feedback that you're getting from all the different, and especially to hear that you have 3 commercial clients that are looking to send business this way, and this probably not one car each. It's probably many, many cars that they could be sending to have this done with, right?
Yeah, because they're selling it in the. I mean, the fantastic thing about this business model is they're selling that in the finance office at the dealerships, because
right. So people pay for it over 8 years.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, regardless what you think of the dealerships and how they operate, I mean, I've been in them. I know how it works. I've ran some, for Ford Motor Company, but it's the used car market. The new car market. There's not a great deal of profit in it. There really isn't. So they have to make up some sort of profit in the back office. So in the business side of it, they have to do. Otherwise, they'll be out of business. So they rely on that business. They rely on the warranty work, and that's really all you get from the new cars. Really, from a dealership point of view, you don't get anything else.
So it sounds like you need somebody to help you with some kind of feasibility forecast of doing something like what Mike just said.
Yeah, because that side of it is I don't know a lot about that. I don't understand how, purchasing properties and stuff like that. I've never done it on a commercial aspect, so I don't know how to do that. So I would need help with that to see whether it would be feasible, and what it would take, because I'm almost certain I can get the financing, but I just I don't know.
Well, I mean, I don't know if buying a property is the thing that makes sense. I think the one thing that this case illustrates for people is that businesses owning real estate, I've seen this many times in my career, people end up handcuffed. Yeah. They can't maneuver or grow because they become their own landlord, and then they're stuck. Whereas if they were a tenant, they could just wait till the end of the lease and then move to a more appropriate location for their business. And that's, the previous owner, he was operating his business in the space he owned. He got to a certain size, and then he ended up getting stuck for the balance of his tenure. And you're realizing you don't want to be in that same position. And I would say that, even if this whole 2-location plan worked, and you opened up another location in a year and you were able to grow your business, once one lease came to an end, then you could reassess again and decide if either of both locations were the right one, or if you needed a more central but larger location, or if it continued to work and you wanted to maintain that, or however. The key, I think, is flexibility and an ability to respond to the market. It's one of the reasons why I like large landlords, like people that own big portfolios of properties, because your landlord can often help you if your needs change while the lease is still in force. They can say, well, we have a client who could use your spot. We don't mind if we move you over here. Like they can play flexibly within their portfolio if the needs of their clients change.
Yeah. My footprint changed in my first business 7 times in the first 4 years because we kept growing so quickly. And as long as I was expanding my square footage, my landlord was happy to rewrite my lease.
Yeah.
But I've seen it go the other way too, Mike, when people have said to their landlord, listen, I know I'm in a lease, but I really like to give up some space, only to find out one of the neighboring businesses is looking for space.
That's right. A lot more flexibility.
And so the landlord's like, well, we can arrange this, and we can make a move. We can move a wall or add a wall or whatever. And so just having I always say, look at the square footage of a business like any other input. What do you need, and where is the best location to make your business successful?
Yeah, and that's a valid point that applies to my business today, because we have a lot of businesses. How can I say? A lot of dealerships opening up in a certain area, which is out of my area. And one or two of them have asked, "Are you coming over here? Why don't you open up over here? Because we'd use you." And there's a lot of business there,
Sure.
And out by the airport, if you like. So they're traveling to get the vehicles cleaned into Moncton. They're traveling 5 or 6 kilometers out of the way to get the vehicles cleaned or undercoated, because nobody's up there. So there's some huge potential in that particular area where all the dealerships seems to be going.
Interesting.
So it's a fantastic opportunity. It really is. It's just sometimes I find myself, as every business owner does, just going home from the end of the day and just sit down and just my eyes have gone. I've kind of fall asleep because there's so much going on, and people just see, oh, he's just running that business. Well, it's, running the business is the easy part. Doing the job is the easy part. The hard part is trying to, project, where you want to be with the business and trying to follow a path, and a system. And like I've said today, because I do know David personally, and I've said in the past, it's very lonely when you're in a business. It's very lonely because nobody else sees that. And all I'm thinking about day and night is how can I do better in the business? How can I push it forward? Or am I doing the right things now? And that's something, it's you need to get your head around that, and in any business, and try and be around like-minded people, because 95% of the population are not thinking the same as you.
Yeah, it's true.
Well said.
You do feel a little bit isolated, and then I don't know what happens, but you just get tired then and think, well, I've done my bit for the day. I've worked my socks off, and I'll worry about growing the business tomorrow, and I'll put some plans in action. But then 8 o'clock starts, and you're back in there, and you're working your socks off again, and before you know it, the day's finished, and you've done nothing to move your business forward. So that's, to me, is just getting myself a job, and that's not what I wanted. I think I'm best suited, going off what I've achieved in the past, at building the business instead of running the business. So the sooner the better I can get in a position where I can, have somebody in there that can take that role on, then I have no problems going out and building it. I think that's where my strengths are. I could be wrong, but that's where I think they are. Yeah.
Well, this has been a fantastic conversation, Tony. I think that there's been so many real life experiences shared about what it is really like to take over an existing business, and that relationship with the seller and the position that a buyer is in. I've spoken with so many business owners over the course of time who want to sell their business for the most amount of money, and they tend to think about themselves and their own position so much, and not many of them sit down and take a look at the position that a buyer is going to be in. If they end up paying a high price for the business, and they have all this debt service, et cetera. And I think you've highlighted the kind of situation that most business buyers end up in, and you are in a positive story, right? I mean, it's working out for you the way it was supposed to, and and that's a fantastic story to be able to share. For a lot of people that I work with who are buying a business, I often will ask the question, what if sales go down 10%? What if this happens? What if this happens? And those are the contingencies that they have to think about, so that the shoes, I like your analogy, so the shoes just aren't too tight.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, it's true. Yeah. I think it's there's a lot to be learned from buying a business. And I think one thing I've learned from this, and it just happened just by pure coincidence, that I had a business that I was very passionate about, and I found somebody who was selling a business that he's very passionate about. So every year or every week goes by, he wants to know how we're doing, and to me that's fantastic, because he still cares about that business, and he's a great source of knowledge that he's allowing me to learn from him. So I think that's, if I was looking at another business in the future, that's what I would look for: somebody who's passionate about it, but maybe selling it because they're maybe retiring, or not just selling it to make a big profit, but they've got to be passionate about it. And in my eyes, it seems to have worked great for me. So I would certainly say that's something I'd be looking at, in the future, if I wanted to buy another business. Yeah.
Tony, excited to look to our pool of partners and find someone that can help move the playing pieces forward for you. So I think I think that we've got some good options.
No, I appreciate both of your time and effort to invite me on. I think it's been fantastic. I've learned something already, just in the time we've spent, and I hope that we can inspire some other people to make that leap. And I'm living proof that it doesn't matter if you're over 50 or over 55, Some of us have still got it, and we just want to keep going for it. And it's buying business is not just for the young people; it's for those old people too.
All right, Tony. Have a great day. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, thanks for your time, Dave.
Take care, Tony.
All the
All
best.
right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Wow, that was a great interview.
Right? I'm Tony's position where he's at right now. There's so many owners out there in the same place, right? We talk about the tight shoes there, that where he wants to go from an exit perspective, from an exit plan, he's got the vision, but then there's all of these barriers in his way. But that's this journey, right? This exit journey is about, first of all, wanting it, seeing it, and then starting to move through it. And so that's what this is all about. I thought that was great.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to finding someone who can maybe help Tony explore some of these options, and then hearing back from them and sharing with everyone in the audience what happens next, sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or what was examined, and maybe the decision is not to do anything. We don't know.
Right.
But I think this is pretty yet another exciting guest and another exciting story that's yet to unfold.
Very, very interesting.
And I'll remind everyone, if you're a business owner and you think you might want to come and share your story and get some help from us or one of our partners, head over to yourexitsquadguests.com, fill out a brief questionnaire. It will be alerted, and we'll be able to reach out and give you a phone call and chat a little bit about your story, and if it makes sense, and if we think that it's something that we can help you with, and that will be helpful for others to learn from, then we can make it part of the program as well.
Great
All
stuff.
right. And so from me and Mike, have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Looking forward to it, David.